The church is the hope of the world, but too often nowadays, the light of the church is dimmed by things like culture wars, infighting, division, even abusive behavior from many who claim the name of Christ. But it isn't meant to be this way. Join us as we turn to the book of Acts and find what happens when regular people are unstoppable because of the Spirit of the risen Jesus. His power is still available to us today, and it's a power that can turn our world upside down. Last time, in chapter 15 of Acts, we heard how Paul and Barnabas traveled to Jerusalem to respond to the Jewish believers who were insisting that Gentile believers had to be circumcised and follow the law of Moses if they wanted to become followers of Jesus. Today, in chapter 16, we'll see what happens when the gospel enters Europe. But there's some important stuff that happens in between. After settling the matter of circumcision among the Gentile believers, Paul tells Barnabas it's time to get the band back together and hit the road for their next world tour. Barnabas is pumped and wants John Mark to join them, thinking it could be a great second chance for this young disciple who started with them on the first tour, but bailed when it got tough. Sadly, John Mark is a hard pass for Paul, who seems to have a strict one strike and you're out policy when it comes to missionary tour desertion. In fact, the disagreement over John Mark is so sharp that it breaks up the band, leading Barnabas and John Mark to head off for Cyprus, while Paul grabs Silas and hits the road for Syria and Cilicia. When Paul and Silas reach Lystra, they meet a young disciple named Timothy, whose mom is a Jewish believer and whose father is a Greek. Timothy has a great reputation among all the believers, so Paul wants him to join the tour. First, though, he arranges for Timothy to be circumcised, which seems odd in light of the whole Gentiles don't have to be circumcised decision that had just been reached by the Jerusalem Council. But Paul knows that reaching new people for Jesus means a willingness to get uncomfortable, and Timothy is willing to be a really good sport about it. After that, Paul, Silas, and Timothy go from town to town, instructing the believers to follow the decisions made by the apostles and elders in Jerusalem. So the churches are strengthened in their faith, and they continue to grow larger every day. And that, in a nutshell, is the story between the story.